So today I want to talk about how to position yourself in the market. Now, when I was growing up, I loved to watch animes, and one of the series that I enjoyed the most was Naruto. If for those of you who don't know, Naruto is about a ninja who finds his way to become the leader of his sort of Japanese clan, ninja clan in that sense, right? So Naruto is a underperformer who then rise up to become one of the most powerful ninjas in the scene, right? So now you know that every time Naruto isn't able to defeat an enemy, there's always some sort of weakness that he needs to find in the enemy, right? So, for example, there was a period of time where Naruto needed to fight a person called Kakazu, which is way out of his league, and he needed to find a way to conquer this person who was way out of his league. So his friends were already exhausted at that point of time, and he needed to protect them. So Naruto had this move called the Rasengan, where he create a ball of wind in his hand that he uses to charge at lower level villains, right? So this is a skill that was good enough to attack villains who are lower level than this person. However, because of the level of this person, he needed to then modify it, right? So what he did was he modified his Rasengan, so to speak, right, into what he called Shuriken Rasengan, which was a way bigger and faster spinning ball of wind that was also sharper. So it was shaped like a throwing blade that is called the shuriken, right? So he called it a shuriken Rasengan. So this turned out to be the perfect technique to defeat his enemy. Now, what has this story got to do with positioning, you might ask, right? So in the same fashion, positioning is the same way that you need to modify your move or your offer or your product, right, to attack the market, to give the market a sense that you are the leader of that market, right? So we do this by, number one, simplifying. We can simplify it by frameworks. So, for example, recently I created a 5-step way to remember things or learn things faster, right? There were 5 different aspects of the brains that we can use. And if I were to tell you these 5 mental areas, then you probably would forget it, right? But I gave it a framework and call it pentabrain, right? So just by virtue of giving it a name like this that was easily memorable, a lot of people started understanding it faster, and I also started to receive more comments about why this thing just impacted them. And all I did was include a framework that allowed them to recall the concepts much easier. That's it. And it's evident from just looking at the comments from the content, and also people who just drop me DMs and also emails to tell me that the framework has helped them, right? So think about how you can tie your concepts together instead of just presenting them as 5 separate ideas. For example, you have 10 separate ideas, find a way to unify them at once. Like, for example, another way that you can also do this, if let's say you have 5, you can also call it the elements of success, for example, right? So, like when you talk about the elements, you have the fire, water, earth, and whatever you have, right? So things like these will give your audience an easier way to recall the information that you want them to recall. So think about that whenever you create something that you want your audience to remember. Now, number 2, the second way to simplify is by being actionable. Now, what do I mean by that? Being actionable is simply giving the steps, right? So instead of telling them broad concepts of something, give them the exact steps. Step 1, you got to do this. Step 2, step 3, step 4. Like, for example, if I were to build a personal brand today, the first thing I will do is, number 1, get a professional snapshot of my face. Number 2, write interesting content. Number 3, research my competitors, right? So, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that will allow us to present to the audience to tell them that these are the ways, this is the direction that you need to head. Now, take note of that. The key term here is direction. Now, when you have direction, you know where to go, and your audience stop feeling lost. They suddenly realize that, hey, instead of 10 different things that I need to do, I have one way to travel from the first item all the way till the last item here. All right. So think about it this way. That's the difference between giving them 10 steps versus giving them 10 separate steps or aspects of things versus giving them 10 directional steps indicating exactly where step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way to step 10 is, right? Giving them direction really, really helps them. Now, this is also evident when somebody tagged me on Twitter, on X right now, saying that my newsletter is one of the most actionable ones over there. And the way that I do it, if you are a reader of my newsletter, right, just selfless plug here, it's freedompreneur.beehive.com. So freedompreneur.beehive.com. Now, the way that I do this is by making sure that each of my newsletter is as actionable as you can. So somebody can just basically take the article, try it out for themselves, and they can make an impact, and they can see the difference that they have created. So that's how you make it interesting, because the person will remember faster once they have taken action and see the results for themselves. Tell me and I forget, demonstrate it to me and I remember, allow me to do and see the results, and I will recall you for life, right? So that's how this would work. Number 3 is simplifying your positioning by talking about the benefits of your product or service. Now, very, very simply, I want to give you 3 examples that you can compare yourself to. So let's take a look. All right. Number 1, Apple. If I talk about Apple, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Now, when they first launched their first iPod, if you remember, they talk about instead of talking about 5 gigabytes of space, right? Like, what does that mean, right? They said 1,000 songs in your pocket. Now, the difference there is that number 1 is 5 gigabyte is the feature of the product, and number 2, 1,000 songs in your pocket is about how it will benefit the person and how the person can use it and then gain the benefits from there. Now, can you see the difference between these two? All right, let's give another example. Coca-Cola. Now, the feature of this is sweet, fizzy drinks that taste delicious, right? Now, think about what their tagline is. Do you recall when they have their commercials running? At one point of time, they were selling open happiness. So open happiness, they were selling the feeling of joy, the feeling of happiness, especially during holiday season. You'll always hear the jingles going of Coca-Cola telling you how fun and joyful this brand is all about. So they're no longer just selling their features, which is, sugared drinks, right? Of course, every drink can say that they are delicious and whatnot, right? But Coca-Cola has told you and associated you in your brain that they are linked to happiness, they are linked to joy, they are linked to festive seasons, for that matter. Number 3, so for me, the way that I've done this is that most of you who are watching my video or also subscribe to my newsletter or even following me on X, I know that you are either solopreneurs or entrepreneurs with a small team. So if I say solopreneurship or entrepreneurship, that would be the feature. And the way that I have changed it is that I talk about the end result that all solopreneurs want, and that is freedom, right? So instead of saying solopreneur, I coined the term freedompreneur and decided that, hey, this is what I come to stand for. the type of lifestyle that I want to create for the people who follow me, the people who go through my content, and the type of impact that I want to have society, right? So give yourself a pat on the back because you just completed a masterclass on positioning. Let me know what you think about this video. I hope it's helpful, and see you in the next one.